if it didn't implode for Pop, wouldn't Kerr get that same type of grace?
I don't know. I don't know the specific relationship between Lacob and Kerr as opposed to R.C. Buford. And I think the owner's name was Holt and Popovich. I think there's also, I'm not convinced Kerr wants to be here for, I don't know.
No, that's a big part.
I don't know if he wants to coach for 10 more years.
I don't know. Willard and Dibbs, like Snyder, he could be just saying the company line, but when he says this is what he wants to do and continue, I'm with that caller. The more and more I see this team turn the corner, or what I deem turn the corner, because they were on the mat with looking for the mouthpiece, Tyson and Buster Douglas, and I didn't think they were going to find the mouthpiece. So I feel like I can't come in here number-wise and say, hey, Stoney, look at this turn, and because they're only one game over, and they're the 10th seed. But I feel like the best is yet to come. Why is Steve Kerr? Why have the Golden State Warriors, the preeminent organization in the NBA, allowed their president to enter a lame duck season, and then he left, and now they've allowed their coach to enter a lame duck season? The only answer is they're not ready to agree to a long-term contract. Okay, why not? Well, I could certainly see Joe Lacob saying, let's see how this year plays out. And you know what? It may play out to a point where the Warriors do okay, and Steve Kerr still says, you know what? This has run its course. I don't know. Do you get that from Kerr? Yes. I could, I want to know a Warrior fan, the Warrior fans are you too. Do you want Steve Kerr to be the coach for the next 5 years, long term? Do you want to see it play out? I think, to me, whether or not Kerr's back depends solely on how this team finishes the year. But when you look at what they're working with, that's just what I'm hearing Joe Lacob say, and I get it. If you want to call and say, Steiny, I didn't hear that at all, we can debate that. Yeah. But I heard a guy say, verbatim, if this team were to slide all the way down and not do well at the end of the year, you know there's going to be big changes. And I'm just saying, so you better go win a series. Yeah. Which I think they can. Well, sure they can. Yeah. They can win 2 series if everything falls into place. But the evidence from 53 games shows they're going to lose a play-in game, and that'll be it. That's what the first. Now, if they go 18-11 down the stretch and bump up to 7, then they can win a play-in and advance, and then we're talking about something differently. But to me, the reason he's saying that is because 27-26 is not acceptable. And 500 is not acceptable. Right. And I'll say this, a couple years ago when they lost to Memphis in the play-in, I don't want to say Kerr survived that, but they bounced back to win a title after that. So I don't feel like there was the pressure. Well, he was under contract for several more years after that. But Stoney, if you're Steve Kerr and you just look at what the Warriors are working with, and you posed a question last week about what they're working with in regard to what they have, the balance now of Steph playing great basketball and Dre figuring out the connection between Wiggins and Kuminga and what Kuminga's next step is, because he's already taken a step like Podziemski. You got to like what they have. That's what I'm saying. If I'm Kerr, I don't want to go anywhere. I finally see it now. You know, the flower's starting to blossom a bit. And I'm just talking about next year, but we're focused on this one. If Kuminga could take another leap and you got Pods and Curry's looking fresher all of a sudden after looking stale, I wouldn't put that off the table. 415 from the Comcast I'm Business excited. Text line. Yeah. You can be excited. And you can be excited, and they might go 14-15 down the stretch. I would, yeah. I mean, dude, one Curry tweak, and this whole thing changes. 415, this is the kind of text that'll get me a little annoyed. Name one coach that can come in and do better than Kerr. This is so crazy when I hear people say replace Kerr. Actually, it doesn't make me that mad because I read it wrong. I'm with you. I don't know who can do a better job than Steve Kerr. And I'm not saying anybody out there is saying, I think there are fans that want to replace Steve Kerr. All I'm saying is he's clearly, the possibility exists that Steve Kerr ain't going to coach this team next year. And the reason is because he doesn't have a contract. Yeah. And neither did Bob Myers. And once it gets to this point, then you better get 2 guys to tango. And Bob Myers is like, you know what, enough. Yeah. I mean, who's to say Steve Kerr just finishes the year and says, this thing's done. Bob saw it a year ago, and I see it now.
No doubt. But let's talk about that briefly here. So when it was all said and done, if you judge each man for the words that came out of their mouth, the reason that was done was Bob's decision. And if we want to call Joe Lacob naive, or however you think he came across at that dual interview where he was at, Steiny,
disingenuous. That's how I would.
Wow. Okay. Gotcha.
He did not learn a day before Myers left that Myers was leaving.
And I bring that up, and the reason I bring that up, Steiny, and I lightweight agree with you, but the reason I bring that up is, maybe Lacob ain't looking at this as you got to prove it or do it. You know what I mean? It could just be, hey, we'll play this out. This year's over. You're a made man, which Kerr should be.
And but Bob wasn't?
No, I got you. But Bob, again, I know what you're saying.
You think everything? No, you think Bob was torn and gut-wrenching decision, which it probably was. But you're assuming that Kerr loves it here and wants to be here. And I don't know that.
Right. And I'm going to say
I know
this
he says
about
all the
Bob.
right things.
Even though he was in the same situation, I now feel, and I'll take it to my grave. I don't know why I brought that up, but Steiny, I feel like Joe Lacob took Bob and Bob wanting to stay here for granted. And maybe he's kind of doing it with Steve Kerr, and they both know, hey, Bob, Steve, you hear Steiny and Goo or the fans? Yeah, I'm a lame duck status. I'm not going anywhere. And maybe it could really just be that.
That's fine. But I just heard the owner say there's going to be big changes if we don't do well in the postseason, or if we.
Tell me if I'm wrong here. Why do I feel like that could be? Now, we know they called about LeBron. That would have shook the world had something happened and they called about LeBron. But that gives Warrior fans and anybody that'll look at this thing from afar, Steiny, why can't I look at that as a player? Like, maybe Draymond or somebody is dangled if he's feeling, froggish. Like, I hear that sound like, oh, that could be a player. But obviously somebody's got to go.
Exactly.
But that would be exciting in itself.
Exciting's one thing. Winning basketball is another.
That's why
the Atlanta Hawks are exciting, right, Goo?
Right. Well, hey.
Joey Z in Oakland.
Oh, boy.
What's up, buddy? Hey, Joey.
It's Josie.
Josie. That's my daughter's name. How you doing, buddy?
I like that. Josie.
Really?
Yep. Josie. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually.
She was actually.
Josey. I was actually named after the outlaw Josie Wales.
My daughter was named after like her uncle. Believe it or not.
Never knew that.
It's my daughter, but she's named.
Josie.
Yeah, exactly. Josie's one of those names that can go both ways. Kind of like Klay Thompson in his prime.
Her uncle on your side or her mom's side?
Her mom's.
Okay, that's
side.
wow.
Yeah.
What you got, baby?
Okay, so you bring up Klay. So that's my point. I'm just I'll cut right. First of all, I love you guys. I will say, last week when you guys were fighting with the Niners loss and Dre Greenlaw, the way you guys went at each other.
Yeah, we got in trouble for that.
Nervous.
We got in trouble for that.
Yeah, that was too intense.
Yeah. Guru apologized 7 times over. That. It was okay though. And I said,
I don't remember that.
Yeah, 6 times.
Oh boy, go ahead.
Well, you were probably blacked out, Goo. Goo, you were probably blacked out. I'd never heard your tone like that. You were screaming.
I'm trying to think what day
you were
that
being
was.
Attacked, which you were.
We're on to Cincinnati.
I appreciate you, Jay. It's coming back to me. Yeah. Look at Chelsea.
Okay, so check it out. So Joe Lacob, I mean, he's got to be. He's talking about the big 3 or Kerr, right? And I feel like I'm optimistic, but I'm also realistic. And if you look at this season, right, most of the season has not really been going very well. But if you look at those 4 guys have obviously done a lot of amazing things together. And I hate to say it. I mean, I feel really bad saying it, and I hope he's not listening because it would, but he's got to be talking about Klay. Right? I mean,
I would put Wiggins in there too. I think he might be talking about Wiggins too.
Yeah, but is that
and Looney? But yeah, I hear you.
I feel like, I hear you. Very well might be Wiggins, but I don't know. I feel like Wiggins is going to go. That doesn't quite warrant the gravity that he was speaking with when he said he's going to make some big changes. I mean, I hope that Klay accepts his new role and he can do what he did when he came off the bench. It's 35 3/4. I mean, that's amazing. But if you look at this season, out of the 4 of those guys, I feel like he's the weak link, which pains me to say. Right. But anyway, that's my take. I love you guys.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate the call. Hey, Evan, do you remember, or Goo, offhand, do you remember what day the trading deadline was
February.
I want to say
February 8th.
It would have been the night that they played Indiana.
Okay.
We were in Vegas.
Yeah, Thursday we were in Vegas.
So the Warriors were 21-25. They see, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I believe. So Tuesday, January 30th, they beat the Sixers. Then they beat the Grizzlies. Okay, so they won 2 in a row. Then they lost that game against the Hawks that they tricked off.
Yeah,
remember that game?
In Atlanta.
Okay, that hurt. Then they played Brooklyn, won. They played Philly, won. So they'd come into I think at that point, when Joe Lacob says there was stuff we could have done at the deadline that would have saved us money, $80 million. That tells me that there was something out there for somebody. I don't know if it was Wiggins. Maybe it was Looney and somebody. But at that point, Lacob said, you know what? I know it's only been 4 or 5 games, but we've had some injuries. I think this thing could be turning around. Kuminga's playing better. I'm not doing that right now. I'm not moving Wiggins, or I'm not moving a guy without a tangible piece coming back, because I got to give these guys a shot. I have to. Okay. So they don't do anything at the deadline. And now they win another 4 out of 5 or something like that. And now they're 1 game over 500. I just think he said, okay, I was pretty close to doing something at the deadline because we weren't doing that well. I think what he's saying now is, if we don't do well for the next 29 games, I'll go back to that. I'll go back to, maybe we do move Wiggins, and maybe we do get Looney out of here, and maybe we tell Chris Paul and Klay Thompson to pound sand, and we look at another avenue. But I think the Warriors, playing pretty well the last 3 or 4 weeks, have allowed Lacob to kick the can down the road a little and to sit tight and to give this team the absolute positive last gasp at something, whatever it is.
I'm not mad.
But if they don't, if this year ends with a flicker, I think it's over.
And okay.
I think big changes are coming. Now,